welcome to Recovery Demystified. My name's Early. I'll be your host. I'm so happy to have you here today. Today I have another interview episode with my dear sweet friend EK. They get into some difficult subjects today, and I guess what I notice, like, when I'm doing these interviews is that there is this theme of trying to use alcohol to connect with people, but ending up feeling more alone. And we have a very deep, ancient human desire to be with other people and to be social and to be connected and to feel approved and loved. And alcohol oftentimes, like, drives a nail between us. And if you can find a way to be accepted, like, authentically for who you are without being fucked up, it feels just immensely soothing and real and validating, and it makes you feel fucking alive. EK touches on, in their story, like, situations of sexual assault, domestic abuse, suicide attempts, suicidal ideation. And all of these things are so silenced in our society and stigmatized, yet they are some things that a lot of us go through. And they were so brave in speaking about these experiences. I was almost brought to tears several times. So if any of these are, like, triggering subjects for you, definitely take care. But also, it's so good to hear someone be really real and honest about these things that our society tells us that we need to be quiet about. I think we need to speak our truth out loud in order to heal ourselves and to heal as a society. We need to destigmatize addiction. We need to destigmatize talking about bad things that have happened to us. Like, we need to normalize talking about bad things that have happened to us, or we're not going to heal as a society. A rising tide lifts all boats, and healing yourself has a ripple effect throughout all of humanity. And without further ado, here's my interview with EK. Hello, EK. How are you doing today?
Hi, Early. I'm good. Thank you so much for having me.
Yes, I'm so glad you're here. Will you start by introducing yourself? Let us know your pronouns and just a little bit about who is EK.
Yeah. So I'm EK. I use they, them pronouns. And lately I've just been making a lot of art. And I like to cook for my friends, my family. I like to bake as well. I've been a new parent to a baby. She's 5 months old on Sunday, so that's been the biggest, newest thing and the coolest thing. And it's been going really well. I love to write. I love to sing and spend time with my friends and family.
Nice. Y'all, I've been able to eat some of these baked goods, and I am in shock every time because I can't even believe how good it is. I'm like, give me more. Anyway, I am very curious about your story with addiction and recovery. What was it like for you? What was it like to be a kid? Then what were, like, some of your first dabblings with substances? How did it go from there? When did it become a problem? And then what did recovery look like for you?
Yeah. It's a whole bunch. So as a kid, things were pretty good and normal. And I'm very grateful for that. Had both my folks in the home, and they're very loving. They just recently, in the last 2 years, got divorced. So that's, something I have to unpack as an adult, but not something I was expecting or had anything I had to deal with as a kid. So it all kind of fell apart later in life is what I'm trying to get at.
Yeah.
Like, as a kid, it was all fine.
Was there any addiction in your family when you were a kid?
It's interesting because alcohol and cigarettes, the way that it was used in my family, it all felt like kosher. Like my dad was the kind of guy who had a beer every night, after work, or and that sometimes led to having 3, 4 till it's time to go to bed. But it never seemed to affect him in the way where it brought any kind of negativity in the home. But it's definitely interesting to think about that being a big part of his life. And then he had a stroke in the last few years and had to cut back on alcohol. And drinks red wine every day now instead. So
makes a big difference.
Yeah, I wonder what he would talk about if he were in here.
Oh my goodness.
But then my grandpa, he smoked cigarettes a lot, and that for many people in my family has been the thing that caused them to get real sick young and die.
And did you notice that when you were a kid? How did you feel about the smoking and the drinking when you saw it?
Well, like I said, the drinking felt normal because it was never an issue. It was just something that my dad did. I never thought it was weird or wrong in any way. He would sometimes even have a beer open in the car while we drove 2 miles down to the gas station to go get more beer.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and then my grandpa smoked inside. I remember writing him letters as a kid saying, please stop smoking. I want you to live longer. And he stopped smoking a couple of years before he died too, but it was one of the leading causes as well.
Yeah. So what was some of your first exposure to you in imbibing in substances?
I remember being probably 15 or 16, and I would just take tiny amounts of alcohol from my parents' liquor cabinet and mix it all together and try and shoot as much as I could of it because it tasted so terrible. Mm-hmm. And just I remember experimenting with that, and then going outside and dancing around.
Were you by yourself?
Yeah, I was by myself.
Do you remember what made you curious to experiment?
I think that I've always been curious about just feeling a different headspace. And I still confront that. But I also feel like I feel very grateful to have not, gone so deep off the ledge that it was super hard to get back on top or climb out of that hole. Definitely dug myself into a big hole, but
how did you get there from that early experimentation of? It's interesting. It's you describe it as tasting so terrible, but needing to drink it really fast. It's sort of deep curiosity and a type of I don't want to say desperation, but it's it's very interesting that our body has these natural defense mechanisms that this is a poison, it tastes bad, and then something else inside of us is pushes past those initial defense mechanisms.
Yeah.
Yeah. So where did it go from there?
And then I remember it became more normal for my mom to buy us alcohol. Kind of the thought process of oh, well, if you're gonna drink, I want to have some kind of control over where it's happening.
Mm-hmm. I definitely remember having friends' parents who were like that. And when you say we, who's we?
My older sibling. Yeah.
So your mom would buy you alcohol so she could keep an eye on you? How did that go?
I don't think that it worked. I think it just, made it easier on certain nights, for sure. We still still did very unsafe things. I just think it's interesting that the beginning of my story with alcohol had to do with like it being given so freely by my parents. And now with now we got a newborn, and then we're raising a 15-year-old too. And I feel like it's very natural to confront these feelings of curiosity about substances, drugs. When you're that young, it felt like, oh, this thing is going to make you feel great. And then you don't think about all of the negative things that can happen around that, inside of that. And so I don't know.
Did you start to experience negative repercussions like when you were in high school, like when your mother was buying you and your sister alcohol, or what was it like then?
Besides just being really sloppy and inappropriate with my friends, nothing too bad. But there was one time that it was involving alcohol and weed. I started to smoke a lot of weed in high school. And that was the first time that I was sexually assaulted. So that was really hard. And I remember telling my friend about it like in the next couple days, and she had this new boyfriend, and she was like, oh yay, well like at least now we've both done it. And I just felt so lost, and like nobody was seeing me, like I was reaching out for support from my friends, and it was just this disconnect.
Yeah.
And that kind of led me to use more weed and more alcohol, which is an interesting cycle of trauma and abuse. And then that kind of kept going for years. So I was 16 at that point. And after high school, I got into a relationship with an older guy. He was 22, and we just kind of consumed everything that we could. I was kind of like the disease of more. And that just led to, that led to a lot of problems. We had a lot of issues. There was a lot of cheating going on. He was cheating on me, and so that would hurt, and I'd feel insecure, and then he would lash out, and then there was physical abuse that then happened, and it all was like surrounding this whirlpool of substance abuse. Like we were using that to combat the negativity that was in our relationship, but then that also exacerbated the negativity in the relationship and kind of just like made everything explode. And then we stayed doing that for a long, long time. And that was a really difficult cycle to get out of. And it really made me want to die many times.
EK, I'm so sorry you went through all that. I'm sorry that when you were a teenager, you reached out to your friend and no one was able to tell you that it's horrible, that what you went through and you didn't deserve it. It's horrible what you went through and you didn't deserve it. And same thing with being in a fucked up abusive relationship right out of high school. That's horrible and you didn't deserve it.
Thanks. It definitely made me like isolate myself from my friends and my family, because I tried to talk to people, my friends, whoever was there, and they say like, you just gotta leave, that kind of thing. And I wish I had, but that's so difficult for so many reasons that it doesn't always just work like that.
Yeah, it's easy to say that from the outside, but if you're open to it, will you describe a little bit about what it feels like to be in an abusive relationship and what kept you in it? Because I think that's something that's really common, and a lot of people don't understand why people stay in abusive relationships.
Yeah. It feels similar to trying to quit a really addictive drug. The things that I remember saying feel similarly to things that I would say when I was trying to stop drinking alcohol.
Do you remember what some of those things were?
I'm thinking like, I'm never gonna do this again, you know, and then you do it again.
Did you have the experience with that partner where the like Jekyll and Hyde kind of thing, where excuse me, sometimes they're really nice and kind of bring you back in? Or,
for sure. It was like super high highs, super low lows, and it's definitely not healthy. It's not consistent. It's just so weird to like go back to that headspace that I haven't been in for so long. Thankfully, have a really loving, great partner. Who I'm really grateful for. But
I'm curious. It sounds like starting in high school and then also going through this relationship that substances never had a good phase for you. Was it because you were saying it was like it was sloppiness in high school and then this like difficult, tumultuous sort of abusive relationship after that? Did you ever have like a phase where the substances were working for you? I mean, I guess you did say that they were effective at sort of like burying that unresolved trauma of that assault in high school. Can you describe like in what ways perhaps they did serve you before they didn't?
I don't think it ever served me in a positive way. I think that I really used it to try to forget about what was going on in my life. I would stay home, you know, I was enrolled in school, but then I just felt so bogged down and embarrassed about my life that I was just staying at his house, the ex, and I'd wake up in the morning and just start drinking and then like eat a pack of ramen and smoke a cigarette and then just kind of go between those three things throughout the whole day and sleep. And I just felt so embarrassed about my life. But I felt so stuck too. All I wanted was to like please this person and for them to like choose me. And it was such a struggle. And then they'd say like, you know, I do choose you, but then so much back and forth and lying really did a number on my trust, for sure.
How were you eventually able to get out of that relationship?
One of the times we'd broken up, I remember we were driving in the car and we were drinking. There was so much drinking and driving going on, which I feel really terrible about now. I'm so grateful nothing worse happened any of the times. But we were driving and fighting about something, and he tossed the whole cup of beer. It was beer in a cup on me, and starts, you know, banging on the dashboard. And I was like, you just have to get the fuck out. So I stopped the car in the middle of the road, and he got out. And I was trying to drive to class, so I would drop my car off, and then he would take it. I emailed my professor that night about how I'm sorry I can't make it to class. I just got beer dumped all over me, and I won't be able to make it. And then he emailed me back, and he was like, "Beer? Question mark? Like, maybe you should come talk to me after our next class if you can make it." And so I felt like maybe he was going to be a safe person to talk to. Mm-hmm. And I eventually sometime made it back to class. It was the psychology class. And talked to him a little bit about what I was going through. And he was validating of how, that's not how relationships are supposed to be. Mm-hmm. You don't deserve that. Like, we should try and get you out of this situation. I was like, I don't really have anywhere else I can stay. And he was like, oh, you can come stay with me. And
I'm getting a red flag. Getting a small red flag flapping.
Yes, a small one, huh?
Yeah.
It only gets bigger from here. So it wasn't immediate or anything. I wasn't just like, okay, I'm packing my bags and moving in with this professor. It was a slow, gradual thing. But it eventually did happen. I didn't even technically move in. I just started staying there. And then that led to Professor being like, well, I have access to a myriad of drugs.
Like psych meds, or what kind of drugs?
Yeah.
Street drugs?
No, mostly like benzos. Mm-hmm. So he would give me like Valium and Klonopin. And some other things I don't even remember. He'd give me Adderall too. To try to like help me, all right? To help me.
This all sounds very unprofessional.
And we were eventually like, this was like a kind of romantic connection. Mm-hmm. That looking back on, I'm so upset about it. Like, I'm so upset that I didn't see what was happening. And that I just thought I was this being carefree and whatever.
Did you feel like you had agency or an autonomy? Did you feel like you were grown enough to be in that kind of situation with someone? Yeah. There
was one weekend that There was one weekend that I woke up late at his house and missed my shift, like a good chunk of it. So I texted my boss and I was like, I'm so sorry, I'm not going to be able to come in today. And he said, yeah, just don't worry about coming in ever again. So I had lost my job. And Professor wanted me to feel better about it, in some way. So he took me to Eureka, got a little like house, and we stayed there. And then we stopped at a liquor store, and he's like, "Oh, what do you want me to get you?" Because I'm still not 21. And I was like, "Oh, I don't know, just get some whiskey." And then he comes out with like the largest size bottle you can buy. I don't even know, it's like a handle or something, but it was just the largest thing I've ever seen. And I was like, what are you doing? Drank it in like 3 days. It was mostly me. He did not drink very much, but so that time is also really hazy because I was using pills and alcohol. And at that time, still trying to wrap my head around the whole situation with the ex-boyfriend. And I just would slowly, like, start keeping, like, one of the pills. And there was a night where I was, like, so acting so erratically that I took like a combination of like 10 pills and drank a whole bunch. And I wanted to die. Mm-hmm. And I remember calling like 988, I think is the number.
Mm-hmm. The National Suicide Hotline.
Yeah. And I was crying and I was like, guys, is this gonna kill me? Like, and they were like, well, we can't like help you kill yourself. That's not the point of why we're here. But like, we can help you not try to kill yourself. And I just hung up on them. Sorry.
So you were not calling the National Suicide Hotline because you had second thoughts. You were calling to make sure the drug combo was good?
Yeah. And they were like, we can't help you with that, basically. I was just screaming and crying in my car. And I woke up the next day. I was fine. I was sick, but I was fine.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then I started working at the farmer's market.
Wait, did it continue on with the professor or?
Yeah, it did. It did. I was still hanging out with him. I was going in between there and staying at my dorm. And the dorm was not a good place to be. I had a really, really nice roommate. And she hated me because of all of the shit that I was doing. And I don't blame her at all. I was a really, really shitty roommate.
What was shitty about it? Just being a mess from...
The worst thing that I remember is I had my ex-boyfriend come and stay the night. And I woke up the next morning and I went to class. Kind of bouncing around in the timeline here.
That's okay.
But I woke up and I went to class, and my ex was still in the dorm room asleep, and she woke up to, some guy that she doesn't know in the room. And later that day she was like, hey, like that made me feel so scared and uncomfortable because you've told me like about him, and I really hated waking up to him being in my room with me and you were not here. And I was like, oh,
did she also...
You're so right.
Yeah. Did she also have thoughts about the professor thing?
I hid that from her, but I took him to my art studio because I was an art major. And I remember my classmates just giving me like side eye, like, what are you doing? And I was like, I'm just living my life.
And it felt, how did it feel to you at the time? And in contrast, how does it feel reflecting on that situation? Like, I definitely am like, I feel like I may be being part judgy, but then part also like, it seems like it's obviously unethical for a professor to date a student, but like, is it not because everyone's adults? Like,
it is. It absolutely is. Especially if they're your teacher. Mm-hmm. Like, especially then. And then it's still weird if because they're teachers. They're supposed to be there to help you and guide you and, nurture your brain. And this was not that.
Yeah, especially because, like you said, he was... Initially, you were reaching out to him because you were having a problem with drinking and your ex, and then it just kind of turned into like drinking and pills and some kind of romantic thing. It just doesn't seem like he had your best interest in mind. Am I wrong?
No, you're not wrong.
Yeah.
I still have trouble figuring out what that was.
What that was.
That ended because so me and the ex took some acid many different times, never ended well. Would always end with him telling me that he was cheating on me.
On acid.
On acid. It was so terrible.
What a nightmare.
Literally. So terrible. Or like, I'm actually in love with my roommate, who is this girl. The worst time ever. The worst time ever was when our dog had found some acid after we took some.
No.
And she took about 5 tabs.
The dog.
The poor baby. One of my biggest regrets about the whole thing. She's okay.
Yeah.
She's okay.
Yeah.
But after that time, I was like, I swear I'm never doing this again. Mm-hmm. And then maybe a year later, my friend was like, here, just take this. It's for, like, you can just have it. And it was 1 tab. And I had it. I was keeping it safe for some time. And then the professor had come back into town after leaving for a little while. And I wanted to show him where I worked. And I was working at our Segas, the warehouse. Mm-hmm. And I was doing dishes late one night, and I told him to come by. And so we were sitting outside the building in his car, and it's almost like a movie. Like, I pulled the tab out of my pocket, and I was holding it up, and I was like, look, I got this. Like, maybe we could take it. And at the same time, a cop pulls into the parking lot and, like, turns his lights on.
What?
And then comes over to the window and knocks on it. And then I rolled on my window. I, like, had shoved it in my pocket whenever I saw what was happening. And he was like, what's going on here? Like, obviously could tell. And I was like, this is my friend. Some, like, 40-year-old man hanging out with me. And he was like, okay, well, I'm gonna need him to step out of the car. And he actually got a detail incorrectly. I had tried shoving it into my pocket, and he took it from me, and he shoved it in his pocket. So they go out, and he gets patted down and finds the tab in his pocket, and then arrests him.
Possession is 9/10 of the law, as they say. That's crazy. Like, what a nosy cop. I'm just like,
I know.
What?
I don't understand. But I was very lucky to not get arrested that night. I had some weed in my purse. He took that. He made me sit on the ground. And I had, like, clipped a tiny corner of the tab off and taken it. So I was, like, feeling a little bit of something. Mm-hmm. But I was like, I swear this is some kind of cosmic lesson that I'm never supposed to touch this drug ever again. Only bad things happen. Mm-hmm. So he got arrested, and he also has super rich parents. They do some weird rich stuff. So he was able to get that charge turned into a loitering charge. And then he had to, like, make an appeal to the U of A board. I don't know exactly who or what for, but he had to defend that what he was doing was consensual. So he needed me to come in front of whoever from the university and say, like, yes, I was there with him on purpose, basically.
Wow. How did that feel?
This was about the time that I remember feeling weirded out by the guy. Mm-hmm. And I had met friends at work who were like, listen, you don't owe this guy anything. He has taken advantage of you under the guise of helping you.
Good advice.
Very good advice. So I didn't go. And I think he lost his job. I know he doesn't work there anymore. I looked him up on LinkedIn one time, like in the last few years. He was somewhere in Maine or something, which relieved me to know mostly that he wasn't doing it to other kids in Arkansas. But
what happened after that? You had your like moment of truth with acid, and I'm guessing you didn't have access to the pills anymore. Like,
yeah,
what happened?
That kind of stopped cold turkey.
What happened with all that?
Which was fine. That was never really my thing. They mostly just made me feel like super out of it, like super dizzy, and I had no idea what was going on, and I would call people the wrong name. It was very weird. Very hazy time of life. I was still drinking every chance that I got. This was around the time that I stopped trying to go see my ex still. Like, we still texted, like, oh, I miss you too. Like, can I come see you? And then I'd go see him just to drink, just to have access to drink, because I still wasn't 21 and I didn't have friends. Didn't have friends who would buy me alcohol anyways, not friends like that. And I would scrounge work for any alcohol that I could. You know, there's like cooking alcohol around in various different places, and I would just sneak as much as I could from it. I'm not sure if anyone noticed.
Been there, done that. Yeah.
It's embarrassing.
I mean, when you get an addiction, it's like, it kind of just takes over and you're in survival mode. You know what I mean?
Totally.
Yeah. It's okay to feel embarrassed too, but been there and done that is all I gotta say.
Yeah, it was dominating my whole life.
When did you get ready to quit?
I don't think I would have quit without accepting help. I needed support. And I didn't know very many sober people. I had met TK at work, and I had stopped seeing the professor, and me and TK became really good friends.
And of course, the listeners remember TK from a couple of episodes ago.
And they kind of introduced this idea of sobriety to me, and how I felt like I was using drugs to defy the status quo or whatever. Like, also to drown my sorrows, and but I thought that I was being edgy in some way. And they kind of introduced the idea of sobriety as edgy, which I really love. And how taking care of yourself, more people don't do that than people who self-destruct.
Yeah, it's a radical act to take care of yourself, especially as a queer person or a feminine person, people that are from historically marginalized groups. We're told that we just need to be taking care of everyone else all of the time, and TK is right. It is fucking radical to be sober, and it's cool, and it's it is way more edgy to be out there being like, no, I will be taking care of myself, actually.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love that a lot.
Yeah.
They also had the kiddo. So when I met them, he was 9 years old, and don't get me wrong, there were still, like, it took a few months of messing up, of using, and the negative repercussions of that, which were, fights, and also a lot of guilt. You got like a fresh set of eyes, like a young, innocent kid in front of you. Like, why didn't that make it so easy for me? And it was because I was addicted to it. But eventually it did stop. I stopped using it. Oh, well, it was the pandemic. That was really the biggest thing, because it was February 4th, and that was like almost right before, it was 2020. It was 2020, and I just got to stay home, and it was a big period of like isolation, and that became a really good friend to me.
A chance to look inside of yourself.
Yeah.
It's interesting to me, some people, when they talk about COVID, they're like, oh, and then I was home alone and all I could do was drink. And then other people are like, I was home alone and all I could do was to look at myself and learn from it,
Yeah.
and some mix of the two at times. But I'm glad that it was a time for you to be able to look at yourself. What did you learn during that time?
Oh boy, I needed to rest. That was what the biggest lesson I remember hearing, like from the stars was that I needed to rest.
And did you rest?
Yes, I did. I rested a lot. I wrote a lot.
Like journaling or like fiction, or what did you write?
Yeah, I journaled a lot, and then I started writing poetry, which really helped me sort of process things. I also got into, like, I started doing tarot, which helped me. It was like a good way to start writing about something, because it just caused self-introspection. Yeah. I don't rely on that tool as much anymore, but it was really helpful to me at the beginning, as well as yoga. I was doing that every day, yoga and exercise, and those are really helpful because you can see, like, physical progress of that and how it positively impacts your health, when for so long you've just been stuck in this thing that's negatively impacting your health. So that was really cool.
Did you have any, like, trials and tribulations during that time? Like, what would you do? Did you have cravings? And, like, what would you do if you did get a craving?
Again, I would write, is what I would do. I would write down what I was feeling and where I was feeling it in my body. And that got me used to trying to figure out where in my body I was feeling my emotions. Definitely had cravings the first at least 6 months. Then it got a lot easier. Like, I was still smoking cigarettes when I was getting sober from alcohol. And it's hard to say whether or not that helped or hurt, because it made me really anxious too. Nicotine definitely made me a lot more anxious.
Yeah.
And I was still using weed a lot throughout all of this, it was a daily, all day thing.
Where are you at now with smoking those two things? Are they things you still engage with, or are you, as Sarah Hyatt said, raw dogging life?
That's so funny. I don't use either of them anymore. And I had stopped smoking cigarettes in 2023.
What was that experience like?
It was very, very, very hard. And I think I went and I bought some like herbal smoking blend to like taste similar to nicotine. It did not, scratch the itch of nicotine, but it made me feel like I was doing it. And then, like, I would pretend to smoke with carrot sticks and just eat a bunch of carrots, and that really helped.
Do you have any cravings for cigarettes now? Like if you're around people that are smoking?
Do. Yeah, I still do. I think part of me just wants to, be able to be social with those people again. Like if I'm at an event and then there's a group of people and they're like, let's go have a smoke. And I'm like, oh, I want to do that. I want to go smoke with you. But I don't.
Yeah.
And I'm really glad that I don't, because I won't smoke another cigarette.
Have you noticed any like physical changes after you quit smoking?
I breathe a lot better. My nose is so much clearer. I can smell better. Like I can smell things more effectively. And I smell better probably too. Yeah. But weed was it was easier to quit, but it took me longer.
Yeah.
And it wasn't until I got pregnant that became super easy for me, because it seemed near impossible for me to stop. And then December 25th, 2023,
Merry Christmas.
I found out I was pregnant, and I was like, oh, I gotta stop. And I think that's really cool that's what made it so easy to do for me. I don't think that people should have kids to stop doing drugs, but I do think it's cool that helped.
It's like very strong motivator. I'm curious about after you gave birth, if you were like, oh, I can't wait to smoke weed after I'm done being pregnant, or were you just like, I haven't smoked weed in 9 months, I don't care,
Yeah, I think it was a little bit of both, honestly. I was excited by the prospect of maybe doing it again someday. I still kind of hold it in my head, like, I'm probably gonna smoke another joint before I die. But it's not gonna be what it was for me, and I don't want it to be what it was for me again.
Yeah. I'm also curious, I hear a lot from people that are parents that about the mommy wine culture, this awful concept that parenting is so stressful that you have to use substances to cope with it. What, in the stress that you've experienced in parenting, what are the healthy ways that you cope with that stress?
Breathing deep. That's probably the biggest one. I think my most stressful times are whenever I want to do something in the house. I want to be taking care of something, and my baby is needing something also. So she's crying to signal to me that she needs that. And obviously, whatever I am needing or wanting to do usually comes second. You know, there are going to be times that, like, I have to pee or poop, and that can't wait.
Yeah.
And so she, like, sometimes cries for a few minutes while I have to do that. And then I go back to her as soon as I can and take care of her. And there have been a few times where she's crying, seemingly inconsolable. And I think it's really important that parents know that it's better to set your crying baby down and walk away for 5 minutes while you take deep breaths and regulate yourself, and then go back to your baby and take care of them, instead of, like, trying to take care of your baby as an anxious, freaking out mess.
Because they can feel that energy.
Yeah, and I think that you're going to be less effective at taking care of them.
Yeah.
And it can also lead to just dangerous situations that happen whenever a parent is sleep deprived and not as in control of themselves as they are when their needs are met.
Yeah. So taking care of yourself, putting on your own oxygen mask, as they say.
Yeah.
Doing deep breathing. Is there any other skills that you use to cope with the stressors that come with parenting? I've heard other people mention the, like, it takes a village type of thing.
So I was thinking, like, just asking for help if I can, you know, like, right now I'm home with the babe while my partner's working. So sometimes that's difficult. Like, if I can call and talk to someone on the phone just to talk to another adult, that sometimes can be a really nice treat. And then also getting really good about being direct with your needs, so that your partner, when they're home, you can say, I need to take care of this while you watch the baby, or I need you to take care of this while I watch the baby.
Advocating for your needs is a very important skill.
Yeah. Yes.
I'm also curious, we're getting near the end of our time. Is there something that you think, in general, people don't understand about addiction?
I think that most addicts have experienced some kind of trauma that they are dealing with in the way of using substances. And I think a lot of people vilify addicts, and that doesn't help at all.
Yeah. It sucks having an addiction. It hurts.
Yeah.
That makes sense. I'm also curious if there's someone out there that's, like, in pain, having a hard time with their addiction right now, what would you say to them?
I would say you're not alone. I'd say I don't know what your story looks like, but I know that it's going to be okay. I would say reach out for help and accept help.
That's great advice. Well, EK, it's been really nice speaking with you today. Thank you so much for taking time to come do this.
Yeah, thanks. Thanks for having me. I love you, Early.
Love you too. Recovery Demystified is produced and edited by me, Early Brunner. Stevie Petet made our logo. Our social media manager is Kaylee Bausch. Logan Bragg wrote our beautiful theme music. We are entirely supported by donations as a 501c3 nonprofit. Your tax-deductible donations can be made to our Venmo or to our PayPal at Recovery Demystified. May you be happy and free, dear listener.